Good evening, everyone, and we're very excited to meet and greet everyone here for our weekly chat program. My name is Gulshan, and I work in American Center Tashkent. And very happy and excited today because we have a special person, actually really near and dear to my heart. Our speaker today is Sandra Oldendorf. Hi, Sandra.
Good morning.
Good morning for you and good evening for us.
That's right. I forgot.
It's very early in your side of the world, right? It's 6 a.m.
Very dark outside.
Yeah. So I would like to introduce you to everyone. Our speaker grew up in the state of Illinois and has also lived in Kentucky, North Carolina, and Montana. And she has college degrees in English, psychology, and a doctorate in curriculum and instruction. She taught in middle schools and high schools in Illinois in English and social studies, and she has taught 25 years in colleges and universities, most recently at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina, and Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana. She also volunteers at the Museum of Rockies in Bozeman and gives tours to school children about dinosaurs. And I just want to tell everyone that I really appreciate that you are here, and I'm really happy that we're still in touch after so many years. When I was on the exchange program and you hosted me in your home, you were my host family, and it's still my you're still a part of my my family, actually. Sandra, thanks so much. I know it's early here. It's early in your country, in your state, and you agreed to do this with us today. And you'll be talking about Montana today, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So I'll give the floor to you. And just a second, I just want to tell everyone that, as usual, make sure that you listen very attentively and you also ask questions and write your comments right below this video, and we'll do our best to address your questions after the presentation. Thank you. Sandra?
Okay, this is what I'm going to talk about this morning. All right, Gulshan. Can we get the next slide? Okay, well, Gulshan's pretty much covered what's on this particular slide. And so I think there's not much else to add. There's going to be a little bit of a geography lesson in this presentation. Next. So here's the United States, and this shows you all the places I have lived. And Illinois is kind of in the middle of the map, a little to the right. North Carolina is on the shore, way over to the right. Montana is right up next to the Canadian border, and it's yellow. Next. So I was born and raised on a farm, and there's a little star to show you where Illinois is. Illinois is in a place we call the Midwest, and pretty much everyone I knew when I was a child was living on a farm. We had barns that looked like this, and we raised corn and soybeans and oats. We also raised cattle and hogs, and we had chickens, and we had pretty much everything we needed on our farm. We had a big orchard with fruit in it. We had apples and pears and cherries, and we had a huge garden with all kinds of vegetables. My mother made me pull the weeds in the garden. And for a while, I didn't like gardening, but now I like it a lot. So when I became a teacher, I taught at a number of schools in Illinois, but I'm going to mention two. One is called the Metcalf Lab School, and this went up to 8th grade. What was a little different about it is that it was on a college campus at Illinois State University, and we got to try out all kinds of new teaching ideas, which was really, really fun. I also taught at Richards High School near Chicago, Illinois, and that was a totally different experience to be living near a big city. One of my favorite places to teach was in Kentucky at Berea College. And Berea College was famous in our country because it was the first place in the South that allowed men and women to go to the same school, and also Black people and white people to go to the same school. So it was very special. And then this is where I met Gulshan, and it was so fun. I taught at Appalachian State University. When I lived in Illinois, everything was very flat. And once I moved to Boone, North Carolina, where Appalachian State is, I love the mountains, and I have lived in mountains ever since. So this is where I am now. I teach part-time at Montana State University, and I supervise student teachers. Right now, I have to do everything remotely, which has many challenges, as I am sure many of you know. So I wanted to give you just a few statistics. Montana only has a little over 1 million people. Because we are such a huge state, everyone is pretty far apart except for a few of the cities. Bozeman is one of our bigger cities, but it only has about 50,000 people in it. And I wanted to give you some sense of our elevation. So we are at 4,800 feet or 1,460 meters. And you can get an idea of some of the taller mountains in this picture. Just a little bit of a comparison between Uzbekistan and Montana. I thought that it was interesting to see Montana's a little bit smaller than your entire country. So that gives you some idea about how much space our state takes up. So we'd have a lot of very popular activities here. I have a feeling you're not seeing the slide the way you're supposed to see it, because I think the formatting got messed up in transition across the ocean. But we are a place that lots of tourists like to come. And the reason is we have wonderful skiing. I went skiing yesterday at a mountain about 30 minutes from my house. We also have wonderful hiking in those same areas where we like to ski in the summertime. Many people like to go camping. Rock climbing is very, very popular, and people also like to climb on the ice. It's in the mountains. Hunting, fishing, viewing wildlife, those are some of the other activities that are very popular here. So I thought you might like to see some of the wildlife that we have in Montana and that people from all over the world come to see. So going across the top, going from left to right, there are bighorn sheep, which are common in some of our national parks, but they are also found outside the park. I see them about an hour from here when I go to one of those areas to ski. We have foxes, which I see right from my house. The next animal is called a pronghorn, and it, as you can see in this picture, is very bouncy. And we often see these when we're driving down the road. It can leap over fences quite easily. Just below the words Montana wildlife is the bald eagle, which is the national bird for our country and is a symbol for our country. And I see these almost every week. Next is an animal that people get very excited about if they see it, and that is a grizzly bear. And we have them in our national parks, but they also are found sometimes outside the parks. People have to be very, very careful around the grizzly bear. It can attack you, especially a mother bear with little cubs. And sometimes people get hurt on the trails, and once in a while, somebody actually gets killed. So we carry bear spray, and bear spray is something we can pull out if a bear is coming toward us and spray it in the face, and that will stop the bear. I have practiced using bear spray, but I don't know if I would be calm enough to actually spray it if a bear was coming near. The other best thing to do is to hike with other people, because they're not very interested in you if there are other people around. The next picture is of a bison or buffalo, and that's a baby next to it. The babies are red when they're born. The next one is a mountain lion, and they are found in our parks and also sometimes outside the parks. They can be quite scary. When you are hiking, mountain lions are interested in the last person in the group, because that's the person they can attack the easiest. So I always make sure I'm not the last person. On the other side of the picture, at the very bottom is a moose, which we find in our parks. They are so fun to see. And right above it are mule deer. And mule deer are everywhere. I see them every day and sometimes in my yard. Going across the bottom to the right of the moose are elk. This is a very popular animal for people to come to Montana to hunt. The meat is very delicious. And next are the wolves, which at one time were extinct in Montana because they were hunted. People didn't like them, and still today they can sometimes attack animals on ranches, and that is not a good thing. But mostly they are in the parks, and people come from all over the world to see them. And the last one is a sandhill crane, which I see 2 or 3 times a month. They are so huge, their wingspan goes across the sky, and I love watching them. I hope you'll get to come and see some of these animals someday. That would be really wonderful. Next. So one of the places we find these animals is in Yellowstone Park. Yellowstone Park is about 2 hours from me, and people come there very much to see animals, some of the animals I just mentioned. But the other thing they come for are the geysers. So Yellowstone is called a hot spot because there's all kinds of volcanic activity going on there. There's a very ancient volcano, but underneath the ground, there's lots of very, very hot water, and sometimes the hot water erupts. One of the most famous geysers is called Old Faithful because it erupts about every 80 minutes. And people, again, line up on the sidewalks to watch this. It is quite amazing. The eruption lasts several minutes, and just about everyone who comes to the park has taken many pictures of this geyser, but there are other geysers. Another feature of Yellowstone is that from this very hot water that's underneath is that it can make the mud boil. And so there are places that you can go and see the actual ground bubbling. Sometimes there's color in the mud, and they call that part of the park the paint pots because it looks like paint is bubbling. And another national park that's in Montana, but not very close to me because it's up near the Canadian border, is actually a park that goes across two countries, and it's called Glacier National Park. Moose are very common there. That's moose in the water, standing in the water. And also, of course, grizzly bears with cubs. I got to see a grizzly bear with a cub one time in Yellowstone, and it was just so exciting. Fortunately, we were right by our car, so we could jump in when the grizzly started to cross the river. If you can see in the picture, you can see part of the road, and there's a tunnel in the road. That is called the Going to the Sun Road. It's very long and curvy, and if you are afraid of heights, it can make you very, very nervous. But it takes you up to a high point in the park, and the views are fantastic. Why it's called Glacier is that there are glaciers in the park, which is essentially ice that can move. But one of the concerns is that with global warming, because the earth is heating up, some of the glaciers are starting to disappear. So I hope that by getting back involved with the rest of the world on climate change, we might be able to reverse some of this in the future. So Gulshan mentioned that I volunteer at the Museum of the Rockies. The Museum of the Rockies is in Bozeman, and it is known worldwide for its dinosaur collection. It also, there's a lot of dinosaur research that takes place there. The dinosaur in this picture is called the T-Rex, or the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it is by far one of the most popular dinosaurs. We find fossils of this dinosaur in Montana and fossils of many, many, many other kinds of dinosaurs. The kids always like, the young children like the T-Rex a lot, and they like to have their picture taken with it. There are dinosaurs found all over the world, and some of you may know about some fossils that have been found in Uzbekistan or in your part of the world. The Museum of the Rockies is also known for a section on Montana history, and this is a house that was built by early white people in Montana and moved to the museum site, and so we give tours in the house. So here's a few more pictures of some of the activities in Montana. The person is standing in the water is on the Madison River, which is very, very popular, almost too popular sometimes. They almost have to control how many people can be on it. People love to fly fish, and many of the fly fishermen do not keep the fish they catch. It's all about the sport of whether or not they can catch the fish. And the fish they most like to catch are different kinds of trout, because they are some of the more challenging things to catch. And on the right, you have a hunter with a gun and an elk, a bull elk below that. As I said, hunting elk is very popular. And we also have people come here to hunt with a bow and arrow. We call it the bow season. It's not like archery from long ago. It's very sophisticated, but it's much more challenging sport than shooting an animal with a gun. So I put in two pictures to show you some of my favorite activities in Montana. I do like to ski. As I mentioned, I did go skiing yesterday. Actually, it was quite beautiful. This picture is not what I look like when I ski. I ski on the easier slopes where it's not so steep. But when the sun is out and I'm going down the mountain, it is so fun. On the right are pictures of people kayaking, and I have 2 kayaks, and my son and I join some other friends and go kayaking in the rivers around us. And that is a very enjoyable thing to do in the summertime. We also have lots of people that like to canoe on the same waters. So just in case there are folks out there who like to eat and drink, especially if you like beer, the picture on the left is of a brewery that's very close to my house. And we have a number of what we call micro brews, or they call them craft breweries, where people will start up their own business and make their own beer on site and then serve it. And in this particular case, the one that's close to my house, you can sit outside and look at a lake and the mountains while you have your micro brew. On the right is a restaurant that's very well known in Bozeman, and it's actually known in other parts of the country. It is a restaurant that was established by Ted Turner, who is the person who created CNN, the news service. Some of you may be familiar with CNN or CNN Worldwide. And his place is called Ted's Montana Grill. One of the dishes it's known for is this one. You may think that you are looking at a hamburger or ground beef burger, but no, you're actually looking at a bison burger, and they are very popular. So that animal that you saw in Yellowstone, Ted raises on a ranch near Bozeman, and they harvest the animals and then they use the meat in the restaurants. Bison burgers taste a lot like a hamburger, but I like them better. So something else that's important is to know a little bit about the first people who lived in the United States and who lived in Montana: Native Americans, indigenous people, American Indians. Many names are used, but they're not all alike. There are many different tribes, and these are just some of the tribes that you will find in Montana. And most of these tribes have their own reservation. I see a little bit of this slide is cut off, and that includes a few of the other groups. But these are some of the main ones. So the Crow, the Salish, the Kootenai, the Pend d'Oreille, the Northern Cheyenne, the Gros Ventre, the Assiniboine, and the Chippewa is one that's not on your screen. On the map, the places that are in dark green show you some of the reservations. And what's really interesting about these reservations is that they are actually considered nations. They're not considered just part of Montana, but they have their own rules, their own set of government. They work with Montana and the United States, but it gives the folks who were here originally a world that's a little bit like the world before white people came. When white people came, they pushed the Indians off of the land that they were on. This map of Montana, at one time, Native Americans would have lived everywhere here, as well as all over the West. But this is the land that they have control of today. So here's just one example, the Crow Reservation. The Crow Nation is the closest one to me. And one of the most famous chiefs from the Crow Nation is Joe Medicine Crow. And here he's being given a special honor by our former President Obama. Joe was given this honor for a variety of reasons. He actually became an educator. He was a teacher, taught at a college, but also he was a hero in World War II. And many Native Americans in Montana are involved in the military. It is also common for Native Americans to get involved in firefighting because we have so many forests in Montana. We have some terrible wildfires sometimes in the summers, and some of the firefighting crews are made up almost entirely of Native Americans. This is a reservation that's north of me and has a beautiful lake called Flathead Lake. And it involves these tribes as well as some others. And I used to teach there. And the point of teaching there was to help some of the students who lived on the reservation to become classroom teachers in schools that had mostly Indian students. I'm going to give you just a little history. So by talking about Native Americans first, of course, they were the first people who lived here. Some of the early white people or Europeans who came here were looking for furs. And the one that was the most popular was beaver fur, because in Europe and in other places, Russia and so on, beaver hats were so popular. And the beaver was becoming extinct in Europe. And so when people found out there were beaver here, people came here to trap the beaver and send the pelts back so they could be made into hats. Another thing that brought lots of people here from Europe was mining. And these are just two examples of mines that are close to me. The discovery of copper in Butte, Montana was huge because it was about the same time that electricity was starting to be used in this country and in other parts of the world. And copper is a good conductor. And so lots of people moved to Butte from all over the world to work in the copper mines over 100 years ago. Those mines, some of those mines are still in operation. Another mine close to me that is not working right now or is working at a very low level is a gold mine in Whitehall, Montana. And gold also brought a lot of people to Montana. Very few of them found gold and very few of them got rich, but they came anyway in hopes that they would find it. Another part of Montana's history, and one that I think people know about probably worldwide, is ranching. Ranching got started when some entrepreneurs, some people realized that the longhorn cattle that are pictured here that live in Texas would probably do well in Montana. And so there were major cattle drives started that brought the longhorn to Montana. Today, most ranchers don't have longhorns because, as you can see, they're kind of dangerous to work with. But that, I just wanted you to see what those first cattle driven into Montana look like. And there's a picture of a cowboy, and I'm guessing many of you have heard of cowboys. And the cowboy is using his rope, his lasso, to possibly rope a calf or a steer, or possibly a horse. And on the right, you have another part of ranching, and that is people raise horses. And people also still use horses for their ranch work. Another thing that brought Europeans here and white people was the Homesteading Act in the 1860s. You may have heard of Abraham Lincoln. he signed an act that said that people could move west and get a piece of land free if they put a building on it. And so these are some examples of some of the early buildings people put on it. Some people had very small buildings, very small houses. They were basically one room. Sometimes they had many children. So it was a very, very difficult way of life. People also came to Montana and got this land and they tried to farm it. But Montana is a difficult place to do farming because it can have droughts with no rain and sometimes too much water with floods. So most of the people who homesteaded were not able to stay, but some did. So this is just a few pictures from my home. This is on the left is what my home can look like in the winter. The snow can get very, very high. I have to hire someone to plow my driveway. Otherwise, I would not be able to get my car down it. But in the summertime, I like to garden. And as I told you, I didn't like to garden when I was a child because I had to weed the garden. But now when I can do it all by myself, I get to pick out lots of fruits and vegetables that I like to eat. And I have a lot of fun in my garden. And this is my family. And one of the best things every week is spending time with my granddaughter, Barrett. She loves it when there's enough snow to build a snowman. And up on top are of course, me and my daughter, Andrea, and Barrett when she was a baby, Andrea's husband, Skip, and my son, Andrew. And Gulshan got to meet all of these people when she was here. She might notice that Barrett has gotten bigger. And these are my pets, my dog Ranger and my cats, Grindel and Sergio. When Gulshan came to Appalachian State in Boone, I went to pick her up at the hotel where she was staying, and I had Ranger with me. I had sent her a message saying I had a dog and I hope she was okay with dogs, but she didn't get the message. And so when I opened up the car for her to meet Ranger, she was so excited that I had a dog. And she got to see Ranger again when she came to visit Montana a little over a year ago. So that is what I have prepared, and I would love to answer questions.
Sandra, thank you so much. That was so interesting. Yes, and I did notice that Barrett has grown. So we have a couple of questions, and I want to remind everyone, please put your questions in the comments, and we'll answer them right now. So our first question is from Davron Akramov. He's asking, why Montana is so underpopulated?
It's because it's a hard place to live. It is. We are near Canada. The northern part is near Canada. The winters are pretty long. We used to get snow in October, and we still can have snow coming down in April and sometimes even May. So it's a hard place to make a living. Now that winter sports are so popular, that is one of the reasons more people have come. But it is just a harder place to live.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So question from Hilala Rahimova. Actually, not question, but comment, and do you agree with that or not? Geographical names originated from Indian language.
Some of them do. But for example, the city I live in, Bozeman, is named after a man named John Bozeman who came here because he wanted to start a business in the West, and that's how Bozeman got its name. But a number of the other names I've used are Indian names.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I should say there is some effort also to rename some places and use their original names.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks. So far, we don't have any questions from our audience, but until we get some, I have a question. Do many people speak Spanish in Montana? And
Okay,
what is the
right?
What are the languages there?
Right. So that's a very good question, and it relates to Native Americans as well. A number of the Indian nations have schools now to teach children their native language. For example, on the Crow Reservation, they do this, and on the Flathead Reservation, both of those that I mentioned, but on others as well. The older people in Indian country are referred to as elders, and they are the ones that speak these original languages. But as they get older and they start to die, the languages are starting to die too. So there are people now who are starting schools to teach the children these languages. When white people moved here, they wouldn't let the Indians speak their own languages. They tried to make them speak English, and of course, they were successful. They had a lot of power, but now the Indians are trying to take back their languages and help them thrive. So we do have a number of folks who live and work here who have come from what we call south of the border, from Mexico or further south, and they do speak Spanish. And I would say, in addition to some of the native languages, Spanish would be the second language you'd be more likely to hear. But most people do not speak either one of those other languages, just English.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So our next question is coming from Lyubov Andreeva. She's telling, it's nice to meet you, Sandra. Do you have any farm animals now? Chickens or sheep, maybe?
I don't have any animals myself, but when I grew up in Illinois, I had all these animals except sheep. My father did not like sheep at all. He thought they were not very smart, and he didn't want sheep. So, but we had other animals around us all the time.
Mm-hmm. So Hilova Rahimova is asking, which season would you recommend to visit Montana?
It depends on whether you like cold or not. Sometimes, and I don't know, Gulshan, I should have looked this up in terms of trying to give the temperature, but I was going to do it in Fahrenheit, but it can get well below zero here. My first year in Montana, it got to 35 below zero. I don't know if you can translate that quickly to what it might be.
You said 30 below zero Fahrenheit, right?
Yeah. So while she's looking that up, the point is it can get very cold in the winter time. I guess if I were going to have just one visit here, I would come in the summer, and I would try to go to the 2 national parks that I mentioned, because there's just so much to see and do. And those parks are very, very large, so you can spend a lot of time there.
Oh, actually, it's minus 34 Celsius.
Yeah. And that's why there's not that many people who live here.
That's cold. All right, so next question is coming from M. Irmatov. As you know, the world is experiencing pandemic right now. How do Montana people survive on trying days? Thank you. So what's the situation in Montana?
Well, in Bozeman, where I live, and because we have a university, they are very strict about wearing masks out in public. The university requires everyone to wear masks, although many classes are also taught online right now. all of the businesses, you have to wear masks when you go inside. But when you go away from the cities and into the more rural areas, into the ranching communities, you will see more people not wearing masks. So that is one part of this. They are just starting to give vaccinations here, and mostly to people in senior living homes and to the healthcare workers.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. Sandra, what is your 3 best things you like about Montana?
Well, I like it that there aren't very many people. I like it that I can drive just a short distance and I can go someplace and there's almost no one around. Of course, I don't like to go places where there are grizzly bears by myself, but there are many places I can go that are safe and go with just maybe 1 or 2 other people. But you can go hiking and you can go onto the rivers and see no one else for a good part of the day. And I like that part of it a lot. I also like the changing seasons, and I like the activities, the outdoor activities that I've mentioned. I really enjoy those. I do not like winter when it gets extremely cold, and I do not like winter. Right now, we have a lot of ice on the ground, so it makes it very hard to walk.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was going to ask you what you don't like, but you answered. All right.
I don't like wildfires. This summer is the first time we've ever had a fire near Bozeman, and I could actually see it start from my house. I happened to be outside working in my garden, and I just happened to look up at the mountains and I saw some smoke go up. And within a very short time, you could see that it was getting bigger and bigger. And eventually the wind came and blew it up over the mountain to the other side. So it caused a lot of damage. Fortunately, no one was killed, but people did lose their houses.
Yeah, that's not good at all. Well, moving to our next question from Lyubov Andreeva. She's asking, have you ever tried fishing, and have you caught any fish by yourself?
I have gone fishing, but I cannot fly fish. It is very, very hard, I think, to do it. You have to swing the pole around in a certain way, and it's easy to get it tangled in things, the line. So I like watching people do it. I have gone fishing when I lived in Illinois and caught fish in the rivers there. Yes. I have also cleaned fish, although I don't enjoy doing that.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from YouTube. Zuki Muhammadiyeva is asking if you know anything about scholarships in Montana. Do you know if Montana State University is providing any scholarships?
Yes, they do, and but there are certain areas that are in demand. So one of the things that Montana State is known for is engineering and also computer science. So we have some really, really good programs here. And in fact, our current governor of Montana got started because he started a tech business here in Bozeman that ended up with people getting a lot of jobs. So now the university offers a lot of programs in computer science. And that would be, I would say, the international students that I have met, I would say that's one of the more popular majors for them, as well as engineering.
Mm-hmm. That's very important information because so many people are, they contact us because they want to study in the US, and that's very important to know.
There is another university in Montana called the University of Montana in Missoula, Montana. It is not known for quite the same majors. They're known especially for the humanities, but it is also in a very beautiful place. So if someone wants to come here, it's another good place to look.
All right, thank you. Question from Davrona Kramov. What do you expect from new presidential administration? Will civil rights be improved around the world? We don't want to go too political. If you want to express your opinion.
Well, personally, I am absolutely thrilled that we have a new administration. And most of the people I know are very excited because he has a lot of respect for lots of different kinds of people. I am very hopeful, and I think he's already signed some acts that will improve civil rights and relationships between people here.
Thank you. Question from Emir Matov. If you had a choice to live in Oregon or Montana, which would you choose? Which one is better?
Oregon would be near the top of my list. And the reason is Oregon has a little of everything. So because it is on the Pacific Ocean, you can get to the ocean very easily. And the Oregon coast is just beautiful. I love going there. But the Oregon also has mountains. So you can enjoy mountains and all the mountain activities. Or you can go to the other side of the mountains and have beautiful, Oregon is very green. And so you can have those things too. So Oregon is a popular place for many people.
Thank you. Sandra, in your presentation, you mentioned national parks. So the question is whether to enter the park, you have to pay some fee, or is it free for everyone to go to the park, do hiking, and just visit parks?
No, you need to pay a fee, and it's by car because most people come into the park in a car. So you pay a fee for the car. And if you're a senior citizen like me, it's a lot less. And many people buy a pass that is good for all year, or in my case, it's good for a lifetime. So I can go into the park with people in my car, and it's already taken care of.
Wonderful. And what is how are they supported by local government, or like who supports national parks?
Good. So the national parks were something that our country, it's really, really important. Well over 100 years ago, with the idea of having parks that were supported by the national government started, and Yellowstone was one of the first ones. So in fact, it is the first one in this country, and Yellowstone may be actually the first national park in the whole world. It's one of the first anywhere. And the idea is that these parks have things like with Yellowstone, the geysers and so on, that are so precious and so important. They didn't want people to come in and buy up pieces of land and start to do things with it. So they wanted to preserve it. So the federal government, the national government is in charge of the parks, and some of our tax dollars go to that, as well as the park fees, and that's what helps support them.
Thank you. We have a new question about education. Do any Uzbek students study in your university? Thank you.
I don't know. I haven't had any students from myself. We do have Gulshan, the Tea Fellowship program that you were part of. So we do get a number of students from your part of the world. And I've met a student from Kazakhstan and some other countries that are close to you who come for those programs. But as far as who is studying here, I don't know. We do have, because of our interest in engineering, computer science, we do have a fair number of international students from Saudi Arabia. I've had a student from Egypt, And I've had students from a number of African countries as well.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I just want to recommend to Zuki Muhammadiev and everyone who are interested in studying in the United States to contact Educational Advising Center at the U.S. Embassy. We have an official center where we have an advisor. You can contact us, and then you will get an official recommendation on where you can go, and it's very helpful. It should be very helpful to you. Mm-hmm. All right. So the next question would be: are you planning to visit Uzbekistan?
Yes. When it is safe to travel. And my son Andrew, who Gulshan met, he's very adventurous, and he wants to come as well. So I have seen pictures Gulshan has shared of, particularly of Tashkent, very, very beautiful place. And I would love to see it. And I know you have some really beautiful mountains as well. And I know that some skiing is going to be starting. Is that right? Has it already started?
Right. We have a ski resort here, a brand new one. Yeah. So you probably would.
Andrew would love to ski in Uzbekistan for sure.
Yeah. And a lot of beautiful places for hiking too.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's look what else we have here. Is there any special food that people in Montana eat? In addition to you said elk meat, right?
Well, people, right, and it depends on where you live, but people in the rural areas especially, because ranching is so big, eat a lot of beef and some pork, but I would say beef is probably the most popular meat. Plus, a lot of people do hunt, and they hunt elk. They eat elk. They eat the pronghorn. They eat deer, venison. So I would say those are, for me, myself, I don't eat that much beef. I eat a lot of chicken and I eat a lot of fish, but I do enjoy a good bison burger.
That's great, bison burger. So for everyone who is going to travel to Montana, that's a good recommendation. You said they are a little bit more expensive than a regular beef.
A little bit more, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Something else I didn't mention on the ranches around here, we also have some very large wheat farms. So there's a lot of, there's some really wonderful bakeries that use the wheat from Montana. So that's something else that, at least where I live, that's known for. And also very close to me, there is a number of people settled from the Netherlands many years ago, and they are known for raising potatoes. So potatoes grow very well here because they grow underground.
Wow, that's interesting. Are there a lot of houses that use solar batteries in Montana?
Some. We have a pretty good amount of sunshine, and I do know more people who are doing solar. I actually have what we call passive solar at my house because my living room and kitchen face south with big windows, and because we have so much sunshine, my house stays warm during the daytime because of the windows and the sun from the south. So that's called passive solar.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, we have a question from Suleiman Hashmuratov. He's asking, could I enter to any of the Montana universities as a second bachelor's degree? And does it have any difference in application type when it will be the difference from the first experience? So, Suleiman, we're not here to talk about education, but Sandra, if you know the answer, no, okay. Again, I would like to direct you to our professional people who can talk about education in the United States. It's Educational Advising Center at the U.S. Embassy. So you can ask all the details and they will answer them.
I can say, when I mentioned international students, we also have a number of students who come here for master's degrees or for a second degree from other countries. So that would be maybe a little more common than getting a second bachelor's.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so many people are saying thank you to you for a very interesting presentation, and I know it's been very interesting. So the time passed very fast, but we have to wrap up. Sandra, again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this presentation for us and to answer the questions. And it was really, really good to see you and to get in touch with you and with Uzbek audience.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'm so excited that you're interested in the U.S. and also where I live. So, and as you can tell, I enjoy talking about it as well.
Yes, it's a beautiful place to live in.
And thank you, Gulshan. And I hope we see each other again, you know, in face-to-face.
I hope so too. Yeah. And I want to thank all of our viewers today for all your wonderful questions and your participation. And I also hope to see you next week on Friday. We're going to have U.S. diplomat Alona Slavinsky, who's going to be talking about the importance to be buckled up when you are in your car. So don't miss that. Sandra, thanks so much. You have a wonderful day and a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.